Happy Friday, and it's an extra special Happy Friday today with Friday the 13th. So for those of you who don't know, Friday the 13th is a huge celebration for the energy of the goddess and of feminine, and really stems back to times of the goddesses when women were really celebrated, and Friday was a particularly special day to do that, being associated with Freya. That's where Friday originates from, the goddess, and Friday is also the day that's associated with Venus, the planet of love and harmony and beauty and all things feminine as well. And the 13th being special because 13 moon cycles in a year, 13 menstrual cycles in a year, a really special day to celebrate women and all things goddess and all things feminine energy. So whether you're a man or a woman, it's also just a great day to celebrate the feminine within us all and within your life. I really feel the energy of it this morning. I can feel like the power of all the goddesses behind us today, just a really empowering energy. And there's been a lot of interesting energies going on this week, I've found. I'd love to hear how you're getting on. We're in the throes of eclipse season. We're in the run up to the full moon. We've got some really interesting stuff playing out in the world, and I really feel like the energy today is like all the goddesses are behind us. There's so much empowering energy, and we need it because there's some really interesting things going on in the world. I've experienced some disempowering things this week. I've been asked to call in my own more feminine, empowering energy. I've experienced some narcissism this week, and it's just a really interesting time. I've also been called to be a bit more honest about what's going on in the world. Yes, many of us are doing this kind of work. We're raising awareness, we're kind of spreading a really positive message, but actually that is because we're readdressing an imbalance, and so it's also, I've had the nudge to be a bit more honest about that. So I've been working with some interesting energies, but I'm definitely getting the balance this week with starting my day with some self-care. I'm back at the beach again. Just finished some paddle training as yesterday, which I'm really blessed to be able to do before I start work, so that's really gorgeous. And I think we need it. We really need to maintain a really good level of well-being on all levels. So it's a great day. It's a great day to strengthen our energy, empower our energy, and look around at what we're grateful for, as well as we're navigating what can be quite challenging at times. So how are you riding? I'd love to hear how you're getting on. Let's talk a little bit about the eclipse energy and the coming full moon. So Wednesday the 18th, we have full moon in Pisces. Now, full moons generally are great for clearing out the clutter. I always say they're a good opportunity for releasing the old, releasing what no longer serves. And this is particularly the case with Pisces, because Pisces is the sign of the zodiac that is all about endings. It's about closure. It's actually about the afterlife. It's the end of life in the zodiac cycle. If you think of Aries all the way around to Pisces, we've got Aries, the beginning, the baby being born, that burst of dynamic energy, all the way around the zodiac wheel to Pisces and endings. And so with the Pisces full moon, and particularly it's the first of the two main eclipses. So we've got the lunar eclipse with the Pisces full moon. We've got a real big dose of closure energy. Eclipses generally are transformative. So they really call us to shift up our timeline, shift up our highest potential, shift onto that path if we're not already. That's why things will be being shown this week. Where are we out of alignment? What things are calling for our attention? What things are asking us to step up? So I felt the call this week to step up more into my feminine power. This is a good personal example. I'd love to hear what yours are. You may want to reflect on what yours are. What are you being called to step up and step into more of your greatness, into more of who you are? And the Pisces full moon, the lunar eclipse end of this kind of eclipse season, will really support us to clear out what's blocking that and illuminate it. Full moons are always great for illuminating things, heightening things, and that's for the purpose of us seeing it, to be able to see what's no longer serving us, what's coming into fruition, what do we need to let go of, what do we need to release. So some questions for you there to journal on or think on or to work with for the forthcoming full moon, which is just 5 days away. Then following that one, 2 weeks later, we will have the solar eclipse, which will be the new moon in Libra 2 weeks later. And that's really interesting because we have, with Libra energy, we have this really good opportunity to look at how we are showing up in our relationships. Now, of course, the most important relationship starting with self. So how are we in the best relationship with self? Are we doing our self-care? Are we talking to ourselves with kindness? Are we going about our daily tasks with ease, or are we feeling stressed, overwhelmed, unmotivated? What kind of tweaks are we needing to make in our relationship with self? That will fulfill our relationships with others and spill out onto those other relationships with our loved ones and with the wider collective as well, how we go about our day. So it's quite interesting as well that that new moon is coming up in Libra, because we also have the North Node in Aries at the moment in the sky, and the South Node in Libra. Now, going back a step, eclipses generally are associated with the nodes of the moon, a zodiac point or a zodiac axis, that is currently representative of our journey to a more destined place, because the nodes of the moon are about destiny. Eclipses are about destiny, you know, how we're accessing our highest destiny and opportunities to support us to do so. So with the Aries and Libra axis in the nodes at the moment in the sky, we've got this real push for our highest destiny in a collective energetic sense at the moment, to be working on how we have been in relationships and how we're working to be more independent into self. So that's not saying all our relationships will end, or it's not saying don't be in a relationship. It's not that. It's just saying, let's have a look on that spectrum of independence. Are you somebody who's over-dependent on others? Are you codependent on other people, other things, other distractions, other means of escapism? The Pisces full moon will help show that up as well. Or are you learning to be more independent, but not too independent, you know? So we're looking at all the extremes of independence with this access. Are you so independent that, you know, actually something I can relate to in the past is it's more actually an example of a trust issue. So independent that you don't trust anybody, you do everything for yourself, you never ask for help. That's extreme independence. So we want to get this really beautiful balance with the Aries and Libra axis, and I think the new moon on beautiful butterfly just went past me, the new moon 2 weeks after the full on the 18th. So what will that be? So that'll be just early October, a few days after into October, we'll have the new moon. So that will be a really beautiful opportunity to look at how we're doing our relationships, and we can start thinking about that now with the Pisces full moon, clearing out what isn't serving us, what wants to go, so we can jump onto our next highest timeline. So some really interesting and beautiful energies at the moment, and I think it's a really particularly beautiful day to kick off remembering our power today, with the power of all the goddesses behind us, the empowering energy of what we want to utilize that for. What are you creating? What are you bringing into being? How do you want your life to be? These are all questions to think about. I know I've got this really interesting thing going on with the sun there. So it's a great time to be doing some inner work, inner and outer, because of course anything we do on ourselves is always going to trickle out into our loved ones, into our families, into our workplaces, into the collective. But of course we know it's not all light and fluffy, and this is why I've kind of been touched on a bit more honesty with, again, some of the things that are happening in our day-to-day lives. You know, many of us are experiencing these issues with either, you know, some of the patriarchal imbalances, because of course that's, I don't know if I mentioned, that's how Friday the 13th was demonized over time, you know, through fear of the feminine, through fear of feminine power, which of course isn't anything to be fearful of. It's about respecting feminine as much as respecting the masculine, and that over time was demonized into Friday the 13th being something to fear. And now of course you see the films out in the cinema of Friday the 13th being representative of horror and violence and all sorts of, you know, really dark stuff, which of course it's absolutely not at all. You know, originating with the dominance, originating with the celebration, of feminine energy, and then the dominance of patriarchy demonizing that when things were very toxic and imbalanced. So it's interesting times, it's an interesting day, and we've got an interesting couple of weeks ahead here with the astrology. So I invite you to work with clearing out the old, particularly up until Wednesday the 18th with the full moon, and also bear in mind how you are showing up in your levels of dependency for the few weeks ongoing after there, to look at where we are on the spectrum from codependency to over independence. Where do you sit within that and on that spectrum, and how can you shift it to a balance that might be more comfortable for you and others around you, and the collective energies as well. So I'll give you some of those pointers for food for thought, and I'll be checking in again before the full moon. Have a great weekend, lots of love.